Welcome, Cornerstone families! We are so pumped to have you joining us online again today.
If you haven't already, make sure you download the Family Ministry app. You can find the link to this in the info section on our Cornerstone Kids Facebook page. There are a lot of awesome resources there for parents and fun stuff for kids too.
Yeah, and without further ado, let's hop into worship.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 13 through 16.
Keisha Jones tied the strings of a large white apron carefully behind her back. She glanced at awe at the gleaming silver countertops and appliances in the kitchen of a cupcakery where her brother Robert worked.
This is amazing.
Yeah, pretty great Maya's letting us use the mixer and stove.
Pretty great, you're helping me.
Keisha offered to bake cookies to raise funds for the new marching band uniforms. Even better, she convinced Robert to help her. He clipped the smudge recipe page over the counter.
Brown butter and toffee chocolate chip cookies? Sounds weird.
Trust me, they are the bomb. Robert worked evenings in a bakery for 3 years, so Keisha had to admit, he probably did know. She looked over the recipe.
2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt?
Actually, we're quadrupling the recipe, so that's 4 teaspoons of salt. Robert tossed Keisha a set of measuring spoons.
Cookies are supposed to be sweet. Won't the salt ruin them?
Nope. Salt actually brings out the flavors.
What does that even mean?
You want to test it out? Fine. I'll make a batch with salt. You make one without.
You're on.
The siblings worked quickly as Robert showed Keisha how to mix dry ingredients and wet ingredients separately.
What do we do now?
Add the dry ingredients into the wet mix on low speed. Slowly, or you will make a flour storm all over this kitchen.
I knew that.
As Keisha worked, though, she began to hear another sound over the mixer.
Wow, rain's really coming down.
Yeah, and this is such an old building that every time it storms, the power goes out.
I can't see a thing.
Robert fumbled with his phone until the flashlight came on. It always comes back on pretty fast. We can wait it out. Robert settled down on the floor, back against the cabinets. Keisha sighed and sat down too. She checked her phone.
My battery's dying. Entertain me.
What? You can't live without your phone?
I don't know. Tell me a story.
I was just thinking of one. About salt.
Really?
One that Jesus told.
Ooh, that one. Sermon on the Mount.
Well, it fits. You know, the cookies.
Fine. Read it to me, preacher man.
It's in Matthew.
I know that.
Robert settled in with his Bible app. Jesus saw the crowds, so he went up on a mountainside and sat down. Then he began to teach. And pretty quick he gets into this part. You are the salt of the earth.
That's it?
Well, no. I mean, then Jesus talks about throwing out the salt if it loses its saltiness.
How do you even know if you're salty?
I think it's like the cookies. Salt makes things taste better. And people who follow Jesus can make life taste better.
Like chocolate chip cookies.
Robert punched her lightly in the shoulder. You know what I mean. When we share God's story, we bring hope to others. We help to fill their lives with kindness and joy and peace. All that good stuff.
Okay, I get it. Salt, good. There's something about light too, right?
Yep. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand. Then it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine so others can see it. Then they will see the good things you do, and they will bring glory to your Father who is in heaven. Keisha shifted, trying to get comfortable on the hard floor.
So when we follow Jesus,
By showing God's love to others.
when we do that, others can see God better and what to do.
Like a bright light. Yikes! Robert leapt up to try to stop the mixer as the power came on. Keisha stood and stretched, blinking.
Like a bright light. You planned that, huh?
Of course.
Well played. Hey, I'm gonna put salt in my batch of cookies after all.
Well played. As Keisha measured the salt, she smiled. The cookies would have came out great, but she had some thinking to do about ways she can become salt and light herself.
So today we talked about Matthew and how we are all called to be the salt and the light of the world. How we have this awesome mission to share God's word to the rest of the world. And how can we do that? We also talked about our own stories, and I want you to really think about that as you go into your discussion time with your parents and really just asking those questions. Think about who it was that told you first about God's story, and then think about your own mission to spread God's word into the world. Our verse for this month is this. It says, "Lord, you are great. You are really worthy of praise. No one can completely understand how great you are." And it comes from Psalm 145:3. So think about that. Think about your mission and how God so greatly created you so you can share his word to the entire world.